hand on your heart, look up at the sky, smile, and say, hey, I'm alive. Thanks for being alive with me today.
Welcome back to Be Alive. I took a break over the holidays. I have been sick, I swear, for the last 2 months. And we're going to talk about that because I let some things go over the winter so far, and it did not get me in a good place. So it got me to really thinking about how to survive and thrive in 2025. Love that rhymes. But this episode is all about how to thrive in 2025. And no, it is not about resolutions. I have 5 tips, 5 hacks, 5 just game-changing ways to approach your life this year that is going to make sure that no matter what kind of dumpster fire happens around you this year, that you are not only surviving, but thriving. First, I realized I should be starting my episodes with like, where's Waldo? Where is Kate? Because I'm constantly in new locations. And I remember when I took this class, Spotify for video podcasters, it was like a tips and tricks webinar that was given when I was first starting out the show. It was like, make sure you have a dedicated set and it's always the same and create that continuity for your audience. Meanwhile, I'm recording in a different place every single time. So I hope you guys love the variety. But right now, I am coming at you live from my brand new office space, which I am high key absolutely thrilled about. For someone who has been nomadic for almost a decade now, having this office space again in Marfa, it's not the same one that I had this summer here in Marfa. It's less than a mile away. It is actually in a church. This church that is in Marfa, which it's a town of 2,000 people, and there are, I think, 7 churches. I've been talking to a couple of the pastors here and there, and they're all like, yes, we each have about 5 to 7 members in our church. This one, which is the Methodist Church, it used to be a school attached to the church. And what they have done in order to pay the bills and keep the lights on is they rent out the old classroom spaces to artists and entrepreneurs as office and studio space. So I have this really cool 3-room little nucleus area that I'm paying $500 a month for, internet and bills included. This is my recording room. I have an office room next door, and then the other room is a tiny room this size. I made it into my meditation zone. So in the mornings, I sit down on the ground on my meditation cushion and I kind of just start the day on the vibe. And that's what this episode is all about today. Let's go back and I will start with a story of how I was walking on sunshine and roses and butterflies and chocolate and whipped cream and all of those things last fall. Ooh, I was feeling good. I felt so connected, so alive. I felt like I was having a psychedelic experience like every day. Not actually taking drugs, but I genuinely felt like I was just operating on this higher plane of this like really beautiful high vibrational state. And it lasted weeks, if not the whole fall. I was just like, boom, I was on point. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that in 2024, last year, I put a ton of energy into my mindset. Like both 2023 and 2024 were really just like my years to reduce/remove scarcity thinking, really dig into my spiritual practices, get rid of negative thinking, and to really be vigilant about being delusional, focusing in on my dreams and my vision, being radically grateful for what I have. And it got me to this amazing place last fall. Like, not only was I feeling super connected all the time, I was also just taking these amazing, bold risks and just being really excited about my projects. And even though I had a lot going on, I was just like flowing through it. Well, I think I took on too much, and I also let my practices and my mindset work go. Yeah. So what happened was I was on break from school. I'm in my master's program, Master's of Psychology, transpersonal psychology specifically, which is the study of the whole person psychology and specifically of spirituality, consciousness, and transcendent experience. Very on brand for your good friend, Kate Manser. While I was on break for school, I opened that studio that I had here in Marfa. I started this podcast. I also took on a really amazing new client. And then school restarted back up again in September. And I was like, holy shit, this is way too much. I think that's where like things started to falter. I started sleeping less, which was, I think, a huge part of it. I started using this sleep calculator, which you can get online for free, because I started realizing that if I wake up in between my sleep cycles, I like wake up so much easier. So I was shooting to sleep for the number of sleep cycles that is roughly about 7.5 hours. Well, now I can see that that was too little. Fortunately, unfortunately, the next sleep cycle after that is 9 hours. So thankfully it's winter and I am really trying to sleep for 9 hours because I started picking up every cold, flu, sniffle, bug within 37 miles radius. Not only was I not sleeping enough and picking up every bug, I also just stopped doing my regular meditation, just meditating super sporadically. I have this thing where I'm just very resistant to my meditation practice a lot of the time, and I was resisting it. And then all of a sudden, I would resist it the whole day, and then it was time to go to bed, and it's like, oh, we ran out of time to meditate. My inner voice also was starting to run out of control, where I was letting the negative thoughts go. As I've spoken with y'all about in the past, my normal practice is when a negative thought comes up, notice it and change it immediately. So if the negative thought comes up like, oh, I don't have enough money and I don't know like how I'm ever going to make it. It's like, no, stop. I have enough money to survive and more money is coming towards me. Or if it's like, oh, like my friends don't care about me, it's like my friends do care about me. So noticing the thought, stopping it, and then replacing it with a, if not a positive thought, then at least a neutral thought. And I stopped doing that as well. So basically just all my shit started falling off. And I think it was laziness. I think I was like in this space of things are going great. I don't need to. It's like the thing that I do every time if I'm ever trying to lose a few pounds is I will do what I need to do to lose a few pounds, change my eating habit, ramp up my exercise, and I'll start to lose a few pounds. And then I'm like, oh, everything's great. I'm like this size. And I think that it's like static. And so I go back to eating the way that I was. And I'm like shocked and dismayed that I'm not a person that can eat tons of sugar and cheeseburgers and all of that. So I think that it's just like complacency. So I got complacent in my practices. I got complacent in my mindset. I wasn't sleeping enough. And then fast forward to the turn of the year from 2024 to 2025. And my mindset was really just like in the shitter. Okay. So it's now been 2 weeks since I noticed that. And I have really been digging back into all of the things that I need to get myself right. And because this is so top of mind for me right now, that I wanted to share it with you. So here are my 5 to thrive in 2025, no matter what is going on around us. The whole theme of this is lock in and get your mind right. Our mindset or our soul set, our spirit set, I think we have to care for each one of those separately and then as a whole person as well. That is our foundation. It is 1000% our foundation. If I don't have my mindset right, nothing else is working. The theme for this tip list is lock in and get your mindset right. Don't F around with this. This is core. This is key. No matter what's going on, we've already been on a wild ride so far this year. We've had explosions, we've had fires, we have a new president coming in, talk may or may not be going away. I'm sure you have had personal things come up. We're not even 2 weeks in and it has been wild. So if we are to continue on this trajectory of craziness this year, it is more important than ever to do these 5 things. And the first one is keep 3 toes in reality and the rest in delusion. And what that means is that it is important not to surrender completely to abject reality. If there is one thing that I have learned in my life is that it is that the more I live like my mind, my reality in abject reality, right? In the news, in like the current events, in what is logically possible to my little brain, the more depressed I am. Okay. So this is where I have found that the happier that I am, the more toes I have in delusion. Now, we can't live 10 toes in delusion, flying off into the ether, flying off into space. At least not all the time. Sometimes you can. But for the most part, I recommend keeping 3 toes in the amount of money that you actually have today. Keep 3 toes in the bills that you have to pay. Keep 3 toes in the state of current events in the world. Keep 3 toes in some semblance of actual linear logic, flawed as that may be. And then keep the rest of your 7 toes in delusion, in the world that you want to live in the mindset that you want to live in gratitude, in your vision for what you believe you can achieve and be and do in this life. Be delusional. Be delusional. And I use that word sort of as a joke, but it's serious. It's the word that most resonates for me. Be hopeful would be another synonym. Be positive, as cliche as that sounds. So be positive, be hopeful, be delusional, live in your vision, live in the world that you want to see, because that is what actually creates your reality. We can look at the same thing and one person can say that's the most depressing thing they've ever seen. And the other person can say, oh my God, that's totally motivating and helps me appreciate life and all the small things. It can be the same exact thing. So which reality do you want to live in? Create that and make a commitment to not getting too bogged down by abject reality. So tip number 1, be delusional. Keep 3 toes in reality and 7 of them in that fantastical, beautiful delusion of the life that you prefer to live in. Your dreams, your hopes, your fantasies, okay? It's not silly. It's not stupid. It is so meaningful. On that note, the second tip is this year, you have to ruthlessly manage your intake. There is such a flood of information around us all the time. And for that reason only, like the sheer volume of information, it's critical to manage our intake. Also, because if 2025 does end up being a year where there's a lot of craziness, which I really feel like that's what we're in for, we're really going to have to be vigilant about managing our intake and not taking in too much information about what's out there. Take in some, keep 3 toes in that reality. Be aware of what's going on in the world to a certain degree, but do not surrender to the consumption of data around you, whether that be on social media, news, whether you have a friend who loves to talk about current events and it really just like stresses you out and drains your energy. You got to be vigilant about your intake. So that means delete or reduce your intake. And then also be very aware of what sources you're taking information in from. The third aspect of that is to make sure that you are taking in positive data sources. So what I've been doing the past couple of weeks since I've been really zeroing in and locking in on getting my mindset right is starting my day with the podcasts and audiobooks that get my mind from scarcity and restriction to expansiveness and abundance and possibility. Okay. We have to nurture our mindset. And so make sure that you're taking in information that makes you feel good and light and fosters your sense of delusion and fantasy and possibility and hope and love and compassion. So if you have podcasts that when you listen to them, they just make you feel like, I love life, like Be Alive with Kate Manser. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm thinking in this expansive way. I am feeling more creative. I'm getting ideas about art that I can do or projects that nurture my spirit or ways that I can be a more loving and compassionate human. Make sure you're taking that in on ideally a daily basis. So monitor your intake is hack number 2. Delete or reduce the shit that brings you down. Make sure you don't take in too much, and make sure that you are making a point of listening to or reading or watching information that makes you feel expansive and powerful, because there's going to be a lot of feelings of powerlessness this year. And I can't have you surrendering your power and feeling like you have no power within you, because you have absolutely great power. And there are people that are going to want to make you feel powerless this year, but we are not doing that. We are conditioning our mind to remember that we have great power, we have great love, we have great compassion, we have great ability to help those around us and change the world just by the way that we show up on any given day. So nurture that mindset. Lock in on it, y'all. The third tip is to, on that note of taking in valuable, expansive information, is to stay on your practices. Don't do what I did and get lazy about it and resist it. If we want to have a thriving, expansive year this year, we got to, like I said, we got to lock in and stay on your practices. Maybe your practices are starting your day listening to a podcast or a book that uplifts you. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's walking slowly outside in nature. Maybe it's some sport or art or whatever. I don't care what your practice is. I want you to think about, what is it in my life that when I do it better, I feel lighter, I feel more powerful, I feel like I can breathe. And on that same note, it's thinking about the places that you go. If you live in a town that can be stressful, where there's a lot going on, or you live cramped with a lot of people, make sure that you are going out to places in nature when you can. Just take a drive out on the open road, or go to a park, or if there's a green space near you, a sculpture garden. But make sure that you are giving your spirit the ability, and yourself the ability, to breathe. So whatever your practices are that make you feel lighter and brighter and more alive and more healed and cleansed, you got to lock in on those. My word for 2025 is dedication. I am a very right brain, left brained person, but I tend to lean more on the right brain side. I can be disorganized. I have shiny squirrel syndrome. It's important for me this year to be dedicated to my practice, to my soul, to God, to the universe. And that is why dedication is my word for 2025. I really want to dig one really deep hole, then 75 shallow ones when the treasure is down there. Dedicate yourself to taking care of yourself. That's the only way we're going to get through this year. Be ruthless about it. Be rigorous about it. That a word that is such a struggle for me, rigor and discipline and habit. All of those tend to be challenging for me, but that's what I want to build into, because I've been really realizing in the past few years that in discipline and routine and ritual, in rigor, is absolute freedom. Because when we structure our lives such that our mindset is on lock, our spirit is nurtured, there's so much freedom in there, because I'm not struggling against like a wave. I'm not trying to swim upstream. One cool practice that I wanted to tell you about that I started is, I heard about it in the book Happy Pocket Full of Money, which is one of the audiobooks that I listen to in the morning if I want to like expand my mind. I really appreciated the audiobook more than the paper book on this one. The author talks about how important it is to have vision and dreams and hopes and goals of where you're going. And he said, hey, make a list of a huge number of things that you want to experience, of your goals. And I was like, oh, wow, like 100 goals. And he's like, no, 2,000 goals. And I was like, what? Okay. So a couple nights ago, I sat down and I opened up a Google Sheets spreadsheet. I titled it Experiences I Want to Have for the Next 40 Plus, because I am turning 40 this year. And this is my list of experiences that I want to have for the next 40 plus years. I just started, boom, writing down. I think the first night I got to 133 experiences. The first one on the list was make friends with a crow. Why that was the first one. I mean, these are in no particular order, but y'all, I really want to make friends with a crow. Have you seen those videos where someone started feeding a crow and giving water to the crow and like talking to the crow, and then the crow started bringing the person like little gifts and would like come visit the person? I have so many Snow White fantasies with like Kate and unique animals. The second item on my list of the experience I want to have is to make friends with a deer. There's others. I want to have a peacock, maybe a hamster. One of my dreams, the experiences I put on there is I want to have pajamas come back to me. I want to have her soul reincarnate again, her and I, because I went to a dog medium once. Yeah, I did. And she said that Pajamas and I have been together in multiple lifetimes already. So I hope that I get the opportunity to have her come back sometime in the future. So, anyways, I'm going to shoot for 1,000 experiences. I got really detailed. I have this one fantasy where I'm like in this future relationship with this love of my life. And one day we just look at each other and say, let's go. We put on our hiking clothes, pack a backpack of survival gear, get on a plane, and we fly to England. We are going to hike the Cotswolds, which is like you basically walk from village to village on these very picturesque paths through forests and glens. And we're going to do that. And then the second part of this fantasy is once we've done like this really cool walking adventure through the countryside of England, then we get a car and we drive to London, where we immediately go all dirty and in our hiking clothes to Harrods. And at Harrods, we purchase a wardrobe for like 3 days in London society, going to the ballet, going to restaurants, and we stay at a nice hotel for these 3 days. And we have all these amazing dinners and theater and ballet experiences. But that's the level of detail that you can get into, like these wild fantasies. And it's so fun. And even just thinking about these things increases my vibration, just makes me feel excited about the next year and the next 40 plus years, hopefully. So tip number 3, lock in on your practices. Make sure you're doing things that raise your vibration and be rigorous about them. Don't be afraid to schedule this shit. Don't resist it like I do. And if you do, send me a message and say, Kate, I'm resisting. And I'm going to say, yo, I'm resisting too. What can we do to motivate each other? Let's do a 3-day challenge where both of us like lock in and do it for 3 days straight. Okay. Tip number 4, and this is critical for all the time, but especially critical during a time where you are trying to build something, where you have a vision for your future, and also when there's a lot of turmoil and tumult around you. And that is to be radically grateful for what you have in the present moment, especially when it feels like you ain't got shit, especially when it feels like everything is going wrong. Like, I need you to effing cling to some things that you're grateful for in your life with the most raw, white knuckled strength you can muster. Like, do not let go of on the daily feeling grateful for the sun, for being alive, for your dog, for your clothes, for that one friend. Maybe it's the last friend you have left. I don't care. For the food that you're eating, for like the feeling of velvet under your fingertips. Find anything, but it is critical to be radically grateful for what you have, especially when you feel like things are just going awry. This is the only way that I got myself out of depression. Probably the second to doing that thing that I mentioned earlier about like deleting and changing my negative thoughts in the moment. That is a huge practice for me. The second one is no matter what, being radically grateful for what I have. Part of me being kind of shitty and depressed and that negative thinking creeping back at the end of last year, just a few weeks ago, was like, I was getting tired of living in the RV. I was thinking like, oh, this RV, like, is just not serving me anymore. I'm tired of moving my shit in and out all the time. I'm tired of constantly looking for places to park and where I'm going to go. And it's just complicated, like all the logistics with dumping tanks and getting propane and water. And It's especially complicated in winter because things are freezing. And I was just like so negative about my living situation. Mm-mm. Uh-uh. No. I'm grateful for my RV. I'm grateful for my little house. I'm grateful that it has afforded me the ability to go all in on entrepreneurship at a time when I wouldn't have been able to do so without, a golden handcuffs job or a paycheck job these first few years as I build up my business. I'm grateful that it's so cute inside and I feel so cozy. I'm grateful that everything, for the most part, works in it. I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to go anywhere that I want. I'm grateful that I'm off the grid. I'm grateful that my bills are minimized. Like, this is just my gratitude list for, like, after thinking so negatively about my living situation. And I wasn't just thinking negatively about my living situation, I was getting that yearning, that scarce yearning whole feeling. You've had it. I know you have. But here's me getting frustrated that I'm still living in the RV, not really seeing like exactly my path to get out. And here I am walking around neighborhoods being like, everybody has a house but me. Or looking at home decor posts on Instagram and being like, I don't know when I'm ever going to be able to have a home to decorate. I wasn't just thinking negative. I was like feeling this yearning, like feeling this lack, this scarcity. And that is the mindset that you need to get out of by being radically grateful for what we have. Set your vision. I want a house. I want a nice, larger, stationary living space to finally get all my shit over there after, being so nomadic for so many years. Great. I'm going to set that vision. You better believe that's going to be on my list of 2,000 experiences that I want to have for the next 40 plus. But at the same time, I'm going to be radically grateful for everything in my life right now that brings me joy, that brings me comfort, that keeps me safe, all the opportunities that I'm afforded. And that is how you're going to be able to get through 2025 and thrive in 2025, because like attracts like, y'all. Like attracts like. If we only look at what's wrong, we're only going to be able to see what's wrong. If you look at what you love and what lights you up and what you're grateful for, you're going to see so many more sunshine, roses, butterflies, whipped cream, and chocolate all around you. The fifth tip to thrive in 2025 is zoom out. Zoom out. Don't get too caught up in the everyday, in the washing machine of life, in all of the details about all of the news stories and all of the little frustrations in your life and who said what to you and who's judging you and who's not giving enough to you. Zoom out, okay? I'm talking to the soul perspective. Like, you're a soul and you're looking down at the game of life, and that's your life. And that's where all those little, everyday frustrations and things are. But no, you are zoomed out. You're zoomed out from the time that you were coming to Earth and you were given a soul contract to learn certain things and have certain experiences. And that's the perspective that you look at your life from. That is a way that you are able to find meaning in life, because it's tough to find meaning in these little tiny details, like the seeing the forest for the trees. That's like such a perfect quintessential use of that phrase. We can't see the forest for the trees when we're in it, but when we zoom out, that's when we can see, oh, the forest is only like 1 acre. I just need to walk for 4 minutes in this direction and I'm out. Look at your life from the soul perspective. You are a soul who has come here with assignments of things to learn, people to meet, experiences to have. And yes, that includes adversity. Yes, that includes challenge. This is the grist for the mill, as Ram Dass calls it, or as I like to call it, the friction that is turning you into the pearl that you are meant to be. The challenges and adversity of your life are shining you up into the most beautiful, shiny pearl. And your soul knows that. Your soul knows that you're going to make it through. Your soul knows that this is just one challenge amidst a bunch of challenges and amidst a bunch of like beautiful opportunities as well. Your soul knows that. And this also applies to the way that you look at other people. When you begin to look at other people as souls and recognize that they are on their own soul journey, that they are have their own assignments, that they have their own aspects of adversity, and that it ain't about you. Mel Robbins recently published a book, which I haven't read yet, but I've been totally watching her PR tour for. Number one, because I love the topic of the book. It's called The Let Them Theory. And number two, I recently saw her on the Oprah podcast and was 1000% living my vision through her, because she appeared on the Oprah podcast and Oprah like held up her book and was like, this is one of the best self-help books I have ever read. And that spoke to my soul, because that is 1000% a dream, fantasy, vision that I have for my life. I can't wait till you say those words to me, Divine Miss O. But this concept of the let them theory, like if they're doing things, like just let them. Don't take it personally. And if you want an added layer of meaning, look at them from the soul perspective and just recognize they're just going through life. They don't know what the hell they're doing, just as little as you know what the hell you're doing. They're figuring shit out. They're given adversity in order to help them become the shiny, beautiful pearls that they're meant to be too. And it's messy and sometimes it's ugly, but let them do what they're going to do. But remember to look at your life from that zoomed out perspective. Sometimes also when I'm looking at my life and I'm like looking at all the things that I'm doing and I'm like, what is all this? If I can zoom out and I'm like, oh, okay, I can kind of see how this connects to that. And this seems totally random, but actually in that, I'm learning that, which might help me with this other thing down the line. It's easier to actually do that in the past. Like look back over the jobs that you've had over the past 20 years and then compare that to the vision that you want to have, like the job that you're creating or some job that you want to have or the job that you're doing that you really want to do well, and observe how the experience in all of those jobs, random as they may have seemed, prepared you in some way for this dream, this purpose that you have for the future. Okay, so don't get too caught up in the bullshit washing machine of everyday life. Make sure you zoom out and remember that you are a soul and that you're around millions and billions of other souls as well. And we're all here just trying to figure shit out. Those are my 5 tips. Let's review. Number 1, be delusional. Keep 3 toes in reality and 10 in delusion. Okay. Or I'm sorry. Keep 3 toes in abject reality and, generally approved logic, and 7 toes in delusion and fantasy and vision and hope. Okay. Number 2, manage your intake. That means don't take in too much information. Don't take in too much negative information about the state of the world, and make sure you are taking in information that uplifts you and helps you expand your abundant thinking. Number 3, stay on your practices. Lock in. Do things that nurture your soul. Do not mess around with this. You have to feed your soul, feed your spirit, and don't resist too hard on the practices that you know will keep you afloat through what might be a very challenging year. Number 4, always, no matter what is going on, find things to be radically grateful for in the present moment and the here and now. Number 5, zoom out. Look at your life and the lives of those around you from the soul perspective. Your bonus, number 6, if you want to really thrive in this year, you got to be crazy. Be wild. If this is truly going to be a wild year, that things are just like systems are crumbling, wild shit is happening, you're going to have to be even more wild to stand out. And number 2, like if everything is sort of breaking and crumbling and things are crazy, what a great opportunity to be crazier than you normally would without too many eyes on you, such that you feel embarrassed or inhibited. Okay. What a great year to just like throw it all out there and be your most authentic, wild and wonderful freak flag flying self. That is how you're going to get ahead. Go beyond your edge. You don't have to go from 0 to 100. Go from 0 to 10 and then 10 to 20. But that edge should just be always where you're looking for that next one. Okay. Go out of your comfort zone. Create that feeling of exhilaration within you. I always like to think about if there were 2 people that coincidentally made the exact same art piece, and one of them, it was like the same art piece that they've been making for years, and it was just sort of rote for them, and they made this art piece, and it's beautiful. That's how it was for them. And then you have a person who made that same art piece, but who pushed themselves. And there was that element of breaking through fear and exhilaration and challenging oneself and going beyond the comfort zone, that you would be able to feel that in their art and you might be more attracted to that person's art. This is just the theory that I have because I respect so much when we push ourselves and when we do the thing that exhilarates us when it's time to do so. There is a time for comfort. That's why it's important to keep our practices up. But there is absolutely a time, I think, every year, if not every day, to just do something that's like a little bit different, a little bit further out. Okay. This is your year to go beyond. This is your year to lock in and make sure that you have your foundation on lock. Your mindset, your spirit set, your soul set, your vision, right? We're not going for 100% perfect. Never. We're going for like 60 to 80% of all of these. If you could do 60% of all of these things, you're going to have a bang up year, no matter what's going on around us. Just know that when things are crazy, it can be scary. It is scary. But these 5 practices with the bonus of be crazy will help you to not only survive what might be a very tumultuous year, but to thrive in it. I'm here to help you get your foundations right, and everything else flows from there. Buckle up, have fun, be delusional, and I'll be right here with you every step of the way. I fully intend on rocking and rolling with this podcast for the whole of 2025. I am here in it. And I just love bringing this show to you. And I hope you get something out of it. So next week, I'm super excited to bring you Angela Gentile, who is just going to like light your soul on fire. She's just got the best energy. She gave the most amazing pep talk in this episode at the end that I can't wait to share with you. And she's a person that's gone through a lot of pain and struggle and trauma. And I feel like those are the people that I trust most when it comes to giving me pep talks and lifting my spirit, because they've been in it. They've been around that block. They've gotten their asses handed to them, and they are still here to tell the tale of that life is meant to be enjoyed. Sounds so trite sometimes, but damn if it isn't true. And all of this is designed to make you feel your most alive in 2025. I love you all. Thanks for being here. Happy today.